Hello and welcome to today's ResNexus webinar. Today we've got our joint webinar with ResNexus and PriceLabs. This is Unlock Revenue Potential with PriceLabs and ResNexus. I'm joined by David Veers. David is the solution consultant at PriceLabs, and he's going to give us a presentation on PriceLabs and the benefits. Then he's going to provide us with a live demo to show off what the software is capable of and how you can use it. Um, and we'll be able to take questions as well. So if and when you have a question, just go ahead and put it into the Q&A section, and we'll get to that when it becomes relevant. We also have, it says Amy on there, but we've actually got Casey Gibson, the development director at ResNexus, and she'll be able to help us out with any of the ResNexus related questions. So we've got you covered on both sides. Um, all right, and I think that's all you need to hear from me for now. So I'll just go ahead and pass it over to David. Thanks so much for coming on and putting on this presentation and demo for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Gavin. Yeah, so I'll just jump in. I know we're real excited about the ResNexus and PriceLabs integration. To introduce myself just a little bit, I've been a solutions consultant at PriceLabs for about 2.5 years. I started in the short-term rental industry back in 2019 when my wife and I kind of started our own little property management company and grew that, and then kind of moved into the software space here, working at Price Labs, like it says, a couple years ago. So I enjoy the space. It's fun. Usually the folks in this industry are pretty fun to work with. And as far as like the agenda, like Gavin said, the things we're going to cover today is just talking a little bit more about the integration between Price Labs and ResNexus, a little bit more about dynamic pricing, revenue management basics. We'll get into the software, kind of show you around there, and then key metrics to track, just kind of, basic kind of revenue management metrics. Um, but the integration between Price Labs and ResNexus, some of the things you'll get to enjoy are just an automation of rates, booking optimization, performance data analysis, and dynamic price management. So again, I know it's an integration we've been working on for some time, and it's been live now for several months. But we're real excited about it, and we've got this promotion going on. We originally like had it kind of ending about this time, but there's been more demand. So the promotion is if you're with ResNexus and you're signing up with Price Labs, a new sign up, you're going to get 15% off your first 3 months. Now with Price Labs, there's a free 30-day trial. So the 3 months would be, after that free 30-day trial. So you still get your free 30-day trial, and then in addition to that, you'd get 15% off your subscription with Price Labs on your next 3 months. And this offer is good until April 25th. So,
And I'll go
uh,
ahead and put that code into the chat so that people can take advantage of that. That's ResNexus PL15, is that correct?
yep, ResNexus PL15.
All right, fantastic. I'll put that in there for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Gavin. All right. And then as far as like dynamic pricing, revenue management, Price Labs, that's our bread and butter, right? That's what most people associate Price Labs with is dynamic pricing. We've been in this space since 2014, when we were founded. I think back then it was definitely more of like a passion project for our founders, and then it steadily just kind of grew into a real business, if you will. So we've been doing doing it for a while. We price over 400,000 properties daily. We're global, so 150 plus countries, multiple languages. Our headquarters is in Chicago, but we do all work remotely. So like I did not mention this. I'm based in Utah. We've got team members across the U.S. and then across the globe as well. It's actually pretty fun to work for this company of international presence. Lots of different cultures and things. So we get to learn about different stuff, and it's fun. Sometimes, well, we do workations once a year where everybody who's able to like gets flown out to a location to kind of work and vacation together for a week. So kind of fun. But yeah, we work with short-term rental, vacation rentals, mid-term rentals, service apartments, camping, glamping, boutique hotels, all the works because our algorithm is very customizable, which hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate here real soon. We do try to be a complete revenue management solution. So what that looks like as far as the tools that we offer is our dynamic pricing, which is where you're kind of automating the rates. You've got your human control factors and your customizations that you can put into place. But we also provide reporting. So there's reporting in the form of portfolio analytics, and then there's market research and reporting, which is market dashboards. So portfolio analytics is your own data. We put it we get this data, your reservation data and things like that from ResNexus, and then ResNexus, from the data we get from them, we just put it into like nice charts, visuals that are kind of easy to see, and then analyze trends. So you can make changes based on your year-over-year trends that you're seeing, or different things like that. And then market dashboards is where you can do a deeper dive into market analysis of, a particular geographic area and get a lot of great insights, and gain competitive advantages that way. Revenue Estimator Pro is this one's really built on Airbnb. So, like specifically, if you're looking for analyzing a property that you are considering putting on Airbnb, it will give you a good idea of like expected revenue, occupancy, like basically a little investor steps on how to look at and analyze a property, a potential investment property. Okay. Um, with Price Labs or any revenue management, I guess, there are three key elements to maximizing your revenue and occupancy would be, making sure your pricing is on point. Um, making We like dynamic pricing because you're able to change those rates with the demand in the market. But you've also got your rule sets to customize your strategy. So you don't necessarily need to just trust Price Labs out of the box. Plus, I know with ResNexus, a lot of y'all have different accommodation types. So you might be more of a boutique hotel or a bed and breakfast. You might have camping, you might have glamping, you might have cabins, you might have a mixture. So Price Labs allows you to kind of customize the settings to cater to your accommodation types. Portfolio analytics, we kind of already talked about with reporting. That's where it's your own portfolio's data, and you can see in a single dashboard kind of how numbers are looking or things like that. And then market analysis, just using those market insights for benchmarking and being able to make decisions, maybe on top of what the algorithm in Price Labs is doing. So why dynamic pricing? First of all, you with automated dynamic pricing, you're able to react quickly to demand, right? Hopefully getting the best possible rates. Maybe Taylor Swift just announced tour dates near your area, right? And we're seeing things increasing. Price Labs will recognize that and automatically increase rates if demand is increasing, or vice versa, right? Lowering rates if demand is low. Eliminating manual efforts. You can put in a lot of automated rule sets to maybe like be a little more hands off, right? You're still going to be monitoring and staying on top of your revenue management strategy. But if you want to put in the rule like an occupancy-based adjustment, where if you're under a certain occupancy percentage, that we're just automatically going to discount it a certain percentage, we can do that. Or you just always want to discount things once they get within a week from today, like a last minute discounting. You have those options. And then mostly, I almost said, I was trying to combine mostly and mainly, that did not work. But mostly, the goal is to gain back time. So if you can save time, focusing on, getting like the setup correct and then saving time in this, or maybe worrying less about revenue management and you're able to focus more on providing a great customer or guest experience, right? Or growing the business, different things like that. As far as how the like synchronization, the connection between Price Labs and ResNexus, the way you want to kind of think of it is you're going to control anything that has to do with pricing in PriceLabs. So, nightly rates, different things like that are going to be controlled in PriceLabs, and then Res that will be sent to ResNexus. We do an automated sync once, usually overnight. You can do a manual sync as many times as you want, and if you feel like you needed more syncs than the one automated sync, there are opportunities for additional syncs. They are an additional cost. It's like $1 per unit per month if you wanted an additional sync. But any of the manual syncs, which I'll show you in the tool in a little bit what that looks like, you just click a button and it'll sync now. You can do those as many times as you want. Those are not any additional cost. Once the sync happens, the rates are pushed to ResNexus, and then ResNexus will push those to your booking channels, your OTAs. You might have set up in ResNexus like a markup of sorts, like maybe if it goes to Airbnb, it gets a 5% markup and Verbo a different markup. That will still like take into effect from ResNexus to your OTAs, but like your nightly rate, think of PriceLabs as your place. So if you want to change the rate, you would do it in PriceLabs Sync Now, and then it would update it immediately across your channels. As far as coming back this way toward the left, we get reservation data from ResNexus. So like on the calendar, it would show if there was a reservation, the ADR on that reservation, and different things like that that we can display either on the calendar or in your reporting in the portfolio analytics area. Okay. And at this point, I wanted to get into the software itself. So I'm in my demo account. I um, recently imported listings, so not a lot of stuff is really set up. When you first create an account with PriceLabs, you'll just go to I think it's hello.pricelabs.co, or if you go to pricelabs.co, it'll give you a chance to create an account. Very easy, just follow the steps to create an account. There will be a little section where you add your code, so that ResNexus PL15 to get the 15% off your first 3 months. And then you'll come to a page that'll look somewhat like this, but it won't have any listings yet. And there'll be like a button that says Add Reconnect. And you'll simply search ResNexus here. You'll find it. There's a link here that'll take you to a help article with the steps. So before you start, right, just make sure you follow these steps. And it's actually pretty straightforward. Most people I've worked with just follow these steps and don't need any like additional help on a call or anything. And then all of once you complete the steps, your listings will pull in here. Um, if you, sorry, my apologies, I need to take a quick sip. Still getting over a cold, but um, the couple things to note if you have like multi-unit set up in ResNexus. Again, I might be using different language than how it's called there, multi-units, but like this one, it's coming in. It looks like it's one line here, right? But there are 2 units. So that's how you'll be able to tell. Or here, this one it's a multiplex. It's got 24 units. Okay. Otherwise, maybe it's just like a single cabin and it'll just have the name of, the cabin or something. But if it's multi-units, right, that'll come in like that. Um, I'll start with this one, kind of as if it were a multi-unit. Um, Let me back up real fast. The Well, actually, it's on this page too. This question mark icon. I'm obviously just going to be touching on just a little bit of the tool today. Not enough time to go through everything in detail, but this question mark, if you click on it, um, if you're just starting in Price Labs, there's going to be a lot of things that are like a lot of pop-ups, a lot of guides that are going to walk through. The Somebody asked about the code. Yeah, it's ResNexus PL, like Price Labs PL 15. Hopefully that helps. Sorry about that. Yeah, Gavin's typing it out. Thanks, Gavin. Um, anyway, this little pop-up will give you access to several different things, such as like, hey, let's explore this screen, and it'll kind of give you a guide, like steps on that. Our knowledge base or help articles are right here. But learn how to use Price Labs. If you're new, I'd suggest checking this out. And then we have different options here. Like this Price Labs Academy is really cool. It walks you through like a self-guided onboarding almost. Price Labs Basics is like a webinar. We have all of the rest of these are webinars that are you can sign up for a live one or a recorded one, and these would be great places to start. Anyway, back to here. This is just kind of orient you a little bit. This is the calendar for this multi-unit. Um, I I did a bad job. I didn't put any like fake reservations in before the call, but these little circles that are white or blank, um, basically it's because there are 24 units. This would fill up like a pie, and so like little slices of the pie would fill in as units get booked up, so you can get a quick visual of how like filled in the property is, right? These 24 units. The little numbers at the bottom are going to be the nightly rates. Um, if there are like holidays or things, it'll show at the top. So like spring break is coming up this week for this market. Um, right? Different things like that are gonna indicate. There's a little legend down here showing what the colors mean. So like a darker blue indicates high demand in the market, and the market is your local nearest like 350 listings of a similar bedroom size. Um, and then if I had, check in, check out stuff, that's what those little keys and little guy in a bed kind of things are. Anyway, the the algorithm itself is it's based on like a base price and then the factors going into the base price. So, for example, if I hover on the nightly rate, like don't click, but if I just hover, I can see this tooltip, and it breaks down everything that's going into this nightly rate on this particular day. So we're starting at the base price, which is in the very top left of my screen. There's a like minimum, base, and maximum, and I've got 200 in the base. At the top of this pop-up, it'll say base price 200, so it's pulling from that number there. And then we're taking out some for seasonality. This is a seaside Oregon, so not a high season right now. It's a beach town. Summer is the peak season. Demand factor is down a little bit. Well, 29%, right? So these adjustments, we're breaking out these adjustments on this tooltip to basically show you a couple things. A, how if I start with the base price, that's too high or too low. This 4%, 29%, these numbers are going to be the same regardless if my 200 were 500 or $50, right? So getting the base price right is important. But then also these factors or these lines are actually like they coincide with settings or customizations that you can tweak in Price Labs. And I'll show you that in a minute. We'll spend some time going through some of our more commonly used customizations, and I'll explain use cases on when you may or may not want to use them. But that's kind of one thing I just wanted to point out. Going back to the base price when you're first getting started, this would be like probably removed, and there might be like a gray number. Like, yeah, see how it's kind of grayed out, and then it says we calculated. So basically, when it's saying we calculated this is Price Labs' best guess based on the data that we're getting from ResNexus. It would be like, hey, based on your current rates and maybe adjusting a little bit for seasonality and things, we're suggesting or we're calculating this base price. Typically, it's a good starting point. If you feel like it's off, we have a couple other tools like this Help Me Choose a Base Price, where you can, like if you click over on market based, you can see where your listing is compared with the others that we're pulling in, and then you can start telling us about it. Like, hey, this is an economy, which is kind of like maybe I'm kind of more like the 25th percentile of the competitors, or mid-scale to kind of be right in the middle, or maybe it's an upscale and I want to be priced higher than most of the competition. And then we usually will include like one plus, one minus on the bedroom ranges. So again, if you're kind of using like camping sites or single unit rooms, right, in like a bed and breakfast, then it'll show like different things like room, maybe one bedroom. So you can customize this to, select or unselect different options, and then it'll give you a suggestion up here based on that. Okay. One thing I will say is this. We started out in the short-term rental space, right? So think like Airbnb, Vrbo. That's where a lot of our data comes from. We scrape Airbnb, Vrbo for short-term rental data daily. We do scrape Booking.com for hotel data. And pretty soon we will have Booking.com data for short-term rental data as well. But if you don't fit in that bucket, right, of like, hey, I'm not really like a short-term rental, like I'm not on, Airbnb isn't like my cup of tea sort of thing. Just keep in mind that that's how it currently is working, and you can just kind of customize it to your strategy by being aware of that. So maybe this 314 is just, it's not going to work for you. That's fine. If you're I'll kind of use camping as an example. Like, you've got some back-end RV sites, right? And maybe your minimum is like 70 and your maximum you think you would ever get on like, 4th of July weekend or whatever is 125. You can set those, and maybe your whole goal here is just to set a base price of something in the middle. If I update that, then then it will change and you won't ever see anything go above that 125, right? So like since I lowered my base price a lot, I am now my pricing has changed accordingly, right? So my base price before was starting at that 200 number, now it's at that 100 number, and it has adjusted the different things accordingly. Another way to kind of visualize like the base price and how your pricing sits for the foreseeable future for the I guess for you can do up to a year, but um this is let me hide a few things. Sorry, I have extra stuff on. Um this future prices chart under neighborhood data. So neighborhood data is pulling in your nearby like short-term rental competitors. So it might be a good guide to just kind of see, okay, well, this is how like the Am I still audible? Sorry, my dog.
Yep, you're all right.
Cool.
We saw the dog
Okay.
walking around earlier. Very cute.
Yeah, so cute. Um, the so anyway, you can still kind of use it as a guide. Usually, people are traveling to an area for various reasons, and they might, stay in a hotel, they might stay in a Airbnb, might stay in camping. So still good indications, but now, right, like my pricing is sitting within my 70 to 125 area. I can get a feel of, well, hey, historically maybe I was sitting at 125. Maybe I want to raise it up a little bit if I can get a little more, this year than I did last year. Um, I got a little distracted by the dog thing, but another thing I wanted to point out here is this is your occupancy in the market. So again, looking at the nearby like 350 listings of similar bedroom size, bedroom range. The algorithm out of the box is very much driven by this occupancy or this demand. So to me, it's kind of a good visual way of seeing like when you see spikes here, you're also going to see them in your pricing up above. Um, Here in the summer, like the algorithm wants to go higher, but it's sitting at that 125. That's why it's flatlining. Um, Apologies. Okay, so that's just kind of out of the box how the base price affects everything, and then you can use your minimum and maximums as well. I did want to jump into our customizations. Customizations can be set here at the listing. unit level. You can also, if you have a lot of units and they're all kind of going to be set up the same way, we have the ability for you to set up what we call account or group customizations as well. I'll show you that in a little bit, but for now, I'm just going to show you like what it looks like here on a single listing because it's a little easier to see the changes live or in action, and then I'll kind of show you where like groups and things might be. So again, if I was setting up a new account, part of the setup is it would ask questions like, are your properties short-term rental, multi-unit, those sort of things. The reason it's asking that is for your different units, you could indicate the property type. So right now it's showing short-term rentals. And when I'm in this smart presets area, these are kind of some of the more commonly used uh, settings, so I guess smart presets. You can ignore this bottom one, length of stay, because it's something that is just part of my demo account and not available other places. But last minute prices, this is it'll tell you what you've got currently going on. So currently applied, which might sound counterintuitive because the toggle is off, but the currently applied is a market driven where it's doing a 32% discount for same day bookings and it reduces to 0% after 15. Um, the if you hover on the little yellow tip, it'll give you a tip for your customization based on the property type you have selected. So right now, since I have short-term rentals, it's saying, hey, most customers are comfortable with the default setting, which is what is currently being applied. But if I change this to like multi-units, which I know a lot of ResNexus folks kind of run, hotels, right, campgrounds, things like that, then the tip is going to change, and it's going to say, for your property type, we actually suggest, no last minute discount, since many hotels, multi-units, right? So you have the option of saying, okay, well, I'm going to follow that tip. I'm going to turn this toggle on, and I'm going to override it by saying hey, no last minute adjustment, or you can set what you want. Like if I did gradual, maybe I do want to do a discount last minute, but maybe not like a full 30%. Maybe it's 10% that I start within 5 days. Or even if you wanted to do like a premium, maybe you're more like, hey, if somebody's going to book last minute, I want to charge more. You have the option of changing it to premium as well. Okay. So again, just make sure like you've got the proper property type set there. But now I think by default this little pop-up's down here. But if you open up this little window here at the bottom, you can review the changes before you like save them and see if it did what you were expecting. So the dotted line is where my prices were. I was doing a more aggressive last minute discount. Now my last minute discount is much less aggressive, so I'm not dropping as much as I was before, right? So that's what that's indicating there. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this back off. So again, a little confusing, but if you see any settings that have this currently applied, even if the toggle is off, that means like the default is applying. And if you want to override the default, you turn the toggle on and you do what you want it make it do there. Market driven is taking like the market data and automatically adjusting it. Um, Balanced is actually the default option. Conservative would be like it's still discounting, but not as much. And then market driven aggressive would be it's a more aggressive discounting approach. Okay, so that's last minute prices. Um, Orphan day prices. Again, we've got kind of some green lettering here. So currently applied is the default 20% discount is applied to gaps of 2 nights or less. So again, if I hover on that tip, it's going to tell me, everybody's strategy is going to be different, right? So it's hard to give like an umbrella tip for all multi-unit rentals. But I kind of like looking at it to see if it makes a little bit of sense. And if I need to, I can turn it off. So I turn that toggle on and then I say no orphan day adjustment. Orphan days are basically just gaps between two bookings, right? So some people are like, yeah, I want to discount that to try to fill those nights, and other people are like, maybe I actually want to add a premium. Um, if you want to customize it yourself, you can click this add, and you have the option of setting it to like a fixed dollar amount or a percentage. Most people will do a percentage, and you can say, hey, let's do maybe like a 10% discount on weekdays and only a 5% discount on weekends to try to fill those gaps. But I only want to do it if there's a one night gap. So for gap between one and one night, it would be like a one night gap. Okay. So, or again, this discount option can be changed to a premium if you're like, oh, if it's actually kind of hard on my staff to do these one night gaps, let's do it, but for a premium, you have that option too. Okay. I'm just gonna turn that back off. Far out prices. Um, you got a couple options here when you open that up. The, again, we got a market driven that's currently applying. The tip is saying for multi-units, maybe you don't want to have a far out premium. Far out premium is simply just saying, hey, after a certain time frame, let's just raise our rates. It's usually outside of your normal booking window, so it's kind of the idea is to protect your rates farther out in the future. If you like that idea, you can try to stick with the market driven, or if that market driven feels like too aggressive and you want to, customize that a little bit, you have again the same very similar options as the other settings you've seen, where you can have no far out prices. You can set your own with this percent gradual or flat, or you can do like a more conservative market driven approach, or a more aggressive market driven approach. Okay. This other setting here is maybe you want to do no far out prices, but you also want to protect yourself a little bit by saying, like right now, my minimum is 70 here in the background. But maybe I want to say, hey, if somebody's going to book really far in advance, I want to make sure that they don't book anything less than $90 beyond, outside of 125 days. Okay. So that could be kind of a workaround where you don't have like a set, like percent increase, but you're at least not going to get booked below $90 beyond 125 days from today. Okay. So PriceLabs has, if you're probably starting to catch the drift, but lots of options as far as the settings go. So I'm not trying to like overwhelm you, I'm just kind of giving you ideas of what's possible. This might be a good time to add that like yes, we do have our webinars and different things. But if you reach out to our support team and request some like one-on-one, like a one-on-one call, you have that option as well. It's support at pricelabs.co or that little question mark bubble that was here before. Um, there's a way to contact support from within the tool as well. Um, okay. Occupancy-based adjustments. I do like to show this one because it is very similar to what ResNexus already has. I forget exactly what you all call it, but it's like the yielding management. This is how it looks in PriceLabs. You've got your occupancy percentages going down the left side here, and then your day ranges along the top. Um, excuse me. Sorry about that. Um, so in this column, for example, we're looking at the next 2 weeks, so like 0 to 15 days. Day zero is today. Um, I'm just gonna kind of use easy math and say it's 2 weeks. So if like 7 of the nights are booked, 7 nights are available. I'm in this like 50% occupancy range. So the other 7 available nights would show a 5% reduction on their pricing. Okay. Um, so kind of going back to that tooltip when we hovered on the calendar rate, you would see like a line item that would say occupancy based adjustment -5 on those days that fall in that category. Okay, so on in this occupancy based adjustment, we're looking at the individual unit and the day range and the occupancy of that unit over these certain day ranges. So this is the default. Um, the idea here is as your occupancy builds up, the discounting lessens or either even goes down to zero, so there's no discounting, or in the future, if you're booking up maybe too fast farther out, you have it's like bumpers like with bowling, or guide rails is probably a better term. But we're actually going to raise rates if you're like booking, if you're already at 70% occupancy, 31 to 60 days from today. You're maybe priced a little low, so we're going to bump up rates. Um, there are a couple this is the default option, but there are a couple other preset options you can play around with up here. Like here's what aggressive looks like. It's just more aggressive on the discounting and the premiums. Um, there's like a super aggressive. So there's other things you can try here, or this is completely customizable. So if you're like, well, I want to change the day range from 0 to 7. You can change that. You just click in it. Or if you prefer to work in like an Excel environment, you can download this. It gets placed into a CSV format, and then you can kind of make your own tables, save it as a CSV, and then upload that CSV here, and it would populate what you made in the CSV. Okay, so again, if there are questions, drop those in the Q&A area. But this should, you're not necessarily losing out on any functionality that already exists in ResNexus. This should work well for, again, I can't remember the exact name for it. What you
Yeah,
guys
that's
have.
yield management is
Yield
our
management.
comparable
Okay.
version. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, cool. All right. So yield management. Now this one is yielding, like I said, just on that one unit. We do have the ability if you're running like a bed and breakfast, or you just want to yield off of your multi units. Um, I'm gonna show you real quick. So I'll come back to that page we were just on, but I am currently in, if you go to dynamic pricing, customizations, and then this page will open up, you'll go to groups. There is a way for you to yield on um, maybe it's certain room types in a hotel, or um, all your back-end sites at the campgrounds, right? The kind of more think of it. Usually people do it more on like a multi-unit type setup, but it would need to be a group. So even if it's like this listing here, this where it has 24 units. You would need to create a group, even if you're just pulling in that one 24 unit multi-unit into the group. You go to this group area, create group, very easy. You give it a name, and then, um, like it says here, you can add your listings to a group from Manage Listings page. Once you have a group created, and then this is where you would assign listings to that group, is in this page. And it's pretty straightforward. Here, this column, you can say, add it to this group, or if you're doing a bunch at once, there's the checkbox option where you can check all of the ones that are supposed to be in the group. Then you say assign group, and I'm just kind of randomly assigning stuff. But anyway, then once they're assigned, you can click edit here, and it will give you customization options that should look pretty familiar because they're the same options that are available at the listing level and at the account level, except for this one setting, portfolio occupancy based adjustments, which is specific to groups. So if I turn this on and I click edit profile, this matrix is going to look pretty similar to what we were just looking at, but now keep in mind that we're looking at the occupancy for each individual day within these day ranges for the multi-unit. So if there's like 10, it's a 10 room group that I've got set up, and 5 out of the 10 are booked today. We're at that 50% range. The other 5 would still have a 10% reduction until those get kind of booked up, right? And that those discountings would back off. Again, totally customizable, and you can change this short booking window to others and kind of get an idea of if you prefer any one or over the other, or if you want to set and customize your own, you have that option. So maybe a good rule of thumb, if you don't want to rock the boat too much, is kind of see what you've got set in ResNexus and then just kind of copy it over into PriceLabs, because if once you're connected with PriceLabs, it will um, what you sync from PriceLabs to ResNexus will write it over it. Um, and then just to keep going here, um, I'll wrap up these last couple of customizations and the smart presets, and then we'll go from there. So custom seasonal profile. This is where um, you can kind of set your own seasons if you want. So again, I'm gonna change this back to multi-units. Um, PriceLabs does like a pretty good like if the PriceLabs seasonality or rates are looking fine, there's no need for you to set up um, a different season. Oh, it changed it. Interesting. So seasonality factor sensitivity. If I turn this on, this is going to say, hey, PriceLabs is tracking seasonality, right? How responsive do we want to be to PriceLabs' seasonality? Do we like where it's at with recommended? Do we want to be a little more conservative? So again, if I change it to that and I click review changes, a blue line will be added. It might not change much because we're hitting our max, but it's going to be like that seasonality factor is just going to be more conservative. More, aggressive would be the opposite side of it, right? Um, what I was starting to talk about was you can set your own, maybe you want to have like a different minimum, base, and maximum for different times of the year, and you just want to kind of self-manage your seasons. That's what the custom seasonal profile is, where you can and I'm thinking about like mostly my campground customers will look at this sometimes, or just having like the min and max here is works well enough. But if you needed to kind of set your own, you could always have that control as well, where you give it a name, right? Maybe it's summer, and you'll give it the start and end dates. Um, we'll say just June through the 1st of September. And maybe during this time of year, I don't want to go below 85 and I want my max to cap out at like 150. And if I don't have to do it for every time frame. Basically, it'll apply this in the background unless we're in June through September, then it's going to apply this as the minimum and 150 as the max. Okay, I'm gonna click finish profile. Um, So that's kind of again, you have the full customization over, or, full control over your seasonalities as well. Um, Demand factor sensitivity. This is very similar to the seasonality, but it's like see how like the chart down here is kind of spiky. It's demand factor sensitivity is saying like how responsive do we want to be to those spikes and dips in demand. Do we want to be like really aggressive and try to go really high on those or not as aggressive? So I'm just going to change it to aggressive and show, um, you know, it would try to spike higher. Oh, and it's going higher in summer because I changed the max on my custom seasonal profile on that previous page. Um, okay. Now, if you have multi-units and you want to look at hotel, like our algorithm can include hotel data. This is where you'll want to pay attention. So, if you want to include hotel data, like the default is it's majority short-term rental data and a little bit of hotel data driving the algorithm. But here, where it says customize hotel weights, this is where you can tell the algorithm to be mostly hotel, maybe a balance, fully hotel, and then it's also going to tell you can say here if it's the hotel comp sets are going to be like the default, which is just the 10 nearest hotels that we get from booking.com, or your own selected. And I'm going to jump out of here to show you what I mean by that. So this hotel data tab, um, so sorry about that. I keep not getting to the mute button fast enough. Um, so in the hotel data tab, this is where you can kind of set your own. comps as far as hotels go. If you have competitors listed on Booking.com, um, they'll be, they should show up in your area. You can click this button to change comp set. You can look on a map, like you're that pin. If you kind of hover on any of these, you can say add hotel. You can click on the link and it'll take you to their booking.com link if you wanted to check it out. But you can, or you, from this drop down, if you know the names of the hotels, you can search them or find them in this list and you can add, uh, you know, I guess as many as you need. I think there is a cap somewhere. So if you figure out that cap, let me know. But I want to say it's at least 30, where you can add them if there are competitive, nearby competitors, hotels near you. Um, and then it's just thinking, while it's thinking, I'm gonna grab some
Yeah,
water.
and while excuse me, and while that's computing real quick, we do have a I think you saw that question. Someone's asking about you know, what kind of support they can expect, and
Okay.
that they might feel a bit overwhelmed at a lot of this, right? So do you think really quick we could do a sidebar where you just talk about the experience of someone who may be getting started with Price Labs, like what do those first few days look like? What kind of support can they expect? Like, do they have to know all this, or like what's like some good first steps? Because I think you're doing a great job of showing, the breadth of everything you can possibly do, but maybe just like a pared down what you can expect kind of thing. Do you think you can give something like that?
Yeah, for sure. So when you're first connecting, like the tool itself is gonna provide some guidelines, but I would recommend like as long as you have at least 5 units, 5 rentable units, in ResNexus you're using PriceLabs with, um, you can request like chat with us or email support, and usually like we're proactive and we're reaching out as well. But if you've got 5 plus, I would just be proactive yourself and email us and say, hey, I'm new with ResNexus. I would like some online, some guidance. And then an onboarding specialist can reach out to you and get you squared away squared away with some trainings, guided like one-on-one trainings with you. So yeah, if it feels complicated, like I'm trying not to complicate it, but I'm also kind of doing, my job a little bit because you're right. Like there is a lot to it. And I'll be honest too, like most of my ResNexus customers that I work with, like come with accommodations that are not like our out of the box algorithm stuff, which is mostly like traditional Airbnb listings, right? So it does require like a little bit more guidance and attention to get it to work for yourself, for your properties if you don't fit that mold of that short-term rental Airbnb listing kind of thing. But yeah, we have our support team is available 24/7 via chat or email. The chat I think has like some initial questions, like automated questions, and then it gets you connected to a live person. If there's a backlog of chats, it'll just convert it to an email and we'll get back to you. Or our initial response time is usually within 2 hours. Um, and then I would just, like I said, request if you need the one-on-one guidance, help, and support. We can provide that. So
Yeah,
if you're, go ahead.
and then just the other thing to remember is that you can take advantage of that 30-day free trial, right? And you
Yeah,
can really explore it and see and familiarize yourself with the system and see what you can do with it. So I think that's a really great opportunity to try it out for yourself, right? And see what you can learn on your own and then get the help from Price Lab support and see how far you can go.
exactly. Yeah. Because like I mentioned, when you import your listings, the sync toggle is off. If it's on, it's green. So we're not pushing anything. Everything comes in like this. So we're not making any or forcing any changes to ResNexus until you feel like you're absolutely ready to. And then you turn that on. And that's how we also charge. Like if you have sync off on all your listings, you're not getting charged. We only charge for the number of listings that you have turned on. So if I just had this one on, I would be charged for these 24 units for this month, right? We charge on a monthly basis in arrears. So at the end of the monthly billing cycle, we just look back on any of the properties that had the sync toggle turned on for, calculate that for you. So if you're like, hey, maybe I want to try it on one, it'll probably pull in your listings, your units, and then you could just try it on one. So yeah, to Gavin's point, like, you don't have to, like, you got that 30-day free trial, and there's not like a huge rush, but
Yeah, that's another great point. Anyway, sorry to distract you, derail you. You get back to your
no,
demo, but I just thought that'd be good for everyone to hear.
that was great. That was great. Yeah, and yeah, somebody said they've got 24 separate Airbnb listings, one-on-one guidance. Chats would be great. Thanks. Yeah. So again, um, we try to proactively reach out to folks to provide. I think when you sign up, there might be a little pop-up somewhere too. There's several pop-ups, and I haven't been like a new user in a long time, but one of them's like schedule a call. So look for that. And if as a fail-safe, you've got this chat with us or email us and just say, hey, I need some onboarding help, one-on-one help, and they'll assign the right team member to you. And then yeah, coming back to the hotels. So if you are more of like a hotel setup and you want to customize your list of your nearby competitors, like here's your hotel, and you can kind of see the rates of your competitors and if their price changed from the last time we scraped, yesterday, you can get a feel for that. We've also got a chart view, um, where you can see how your competitors are pricing compared to you as that black line. So in this case, if I was more hotel and I had my algorithm, those weights, I'll kind of go back to this spot, but smart presets, switch this back to multi-unit. I'm not saving my changes. That's why it keeps changing the drop down back to what it was originally. If you save the changes, it's not gonna keep changing it on you. But um, I'm gonna go back to my demand factor sensitivity, and if I change, I think I need to replace the batteries in my mouse. I swear I'm clicking the buttons. And I change this to like oh, mostly hotel as an example. And I change this to my selected and hotel data tab, um, and save my changes. My rates are gonna change to be more in line with the hotel rates. We'll see if what I say is true after it's still loading, so we'll see. Um, I probably have some other settings that are keeping it low within, yeah, like the last minute is still keeping it low, but it's changed a little bit to kind of match and mirror the weekends more. Um, anyway, those are the main settings I just kind of wanted to go over. Again, yes, it can be a little bit overwhelming. Use these little tips as a guide to kind of see if it's getting where you want it to. Um, at the end of the day, though, you have, like, yes, you want to set up the settings where it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you, but you have the ability to come in here and say, hey, I know I want this normally to be a $70 minimum. I click and drag to select multiple days, or I can change my dates up here. And I can say I am desperate. I'll drop my price down to 60, right? So I can do my overrides. We call these like date specific overrides. This one's giving me a warning because I'm going below my $70 minimum. And I can just say yes, I'm okay with that. And now this little band is going to show up saying, hey, I put a manual override here to drop the rate. A lot of people really like our multi-calendar view for this. So once you've kind of got your settings in place, and then on the day-to-day basis, when you're managing multiple properties or multiple units, I apologize that some of these are not coming in. Try to do a save and refresh. But it's going to have your listing name, and then it'll have like your calendar view off to the right. So if you want to just kind of quickly manage rates right here in one view for all of your listings, very, very easy to use, user friendly. Like if I wanted to just like I can click down even. So I'm selecting multiple units that are all in the row here. And I can say, hey, for this weekend, I want to have I want to decrease the down 10% because I'm not getting booked. It'll do like a 10% decrease on all those weekends that I just chose. And you'll see those 10% trickling in there. Um, and we have about 5 minutes left. So I'll probably stop there. There's like I'll just kind of pull up this screen so you can kind of look at it. But this is what I was talking about with portfolio analytics, some of the possibilities with our reporting. We get your reservation data from ResNexus, and we can display, like year over year trends by stay date for revenue. This is on the books, right? So like the fact that I'm lower than May last year, I'm not that worried about yet because May hasn't passed. But anyway, some more visuals for reporting purposes and analysis. But I'll stop talking and we can, leave some time for questions. But uh, were there any more that came through, Gavin?
Not at this time, but yeah, if anyone has any questions before we sign off today, now's your chance. If we're not able to get to any questions, and they want to learn more, what's the best way for them to do that, David?
Yeah, I would reach out to support at pricelabs.co. I think I have a slide so you can see it. Right here, support at pricelabs.co, or use that little question mark icon. Reach out to us, and our team will either get you directed to, like my role. I'm an account manager, solutions consultant for anybody who has like 50 plus units, kind of usually in the Western United States, since I'm based in Utah, but I do work with customers all around the country in Canada. But good first point of contact would be support at pricelabs.co, and then they'll direct you if you need like assistance from somebody on my team.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, I'm not seeing any more questions at this time, like I said, but we'll keep it open probably just until the hour. So there's still time if you got a question. But any questions for the PriceLab side of things or the ResNexus integration, we'd be happy to help you out. For any ResNexus related questions, just reach out to your support representative or to support@resnexus.com for any questions relating to our side of things. Let's see. We do have a question that came in from Joseph. He asks, is there a report that helps you understand the settings you set and the results?
That's a good question, Joseph. There's not necessarily like a report that says like, hey, you turned on this setting and we've seen this effect on the revenue or something like that. But from like that's why like getting kind of the setup right is I think important. But then as you're making changes, you've got different reports like pacing reports where I would recommend if you are like making changes to your settings, like obviously just try like one or two at a time so you can monitor things like this. Otherwise, it gets hard to know if, oh, I changed like 10 things, what had the effect? What maybe my revenue increased. Was it because of all 10 things or was it the one thing? If you're kind of doing one or two at a time, then you'll be able to see the result. I think it's also because we have so many settings available. But I like that idea of being able to have some kind of report. But this pacing report, if you're checking this regularly, like you can see how you're pacing for the next, 6 months or whatever. And from the last time you made a change, you can check and monitor this. So it's more of like portfolio wide, as opposed to settings, as far as reporting goes.
Yeah, but that's a good idea to do one or two things at a time, try and isolate, and that also would help, I think, learn the different tools as you go. So I think that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah.
I believe Lindsay is getting started with trying to add in Price Labs and asks where to find the ResNexus host ID. I guess as part of the setup process. Can you enlighten us into that, Casey?
Yeah, for sure. So before you can start the connection on the PriceLab side, you do have to add the channel from the ResNexus side. You can do that from the integrations marketplace page. once you've added that channel connection, you'll also set up your unit groups. After you've done those two steps, then there's just a registration tab on the right side, and that tab gives you the host ID that you need and also gives you the instructions for what you're needing to do on PriceLabs to finish up the connection at that point. If you have any problems with it or difficulty after you've added that channel, of course, reach out to ResNexus. We're happy to help you out with finding that information.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, yeah, got to get it set up from ResNexus site as well. Heather asks when the recording will be available. I'll have this online within the next day or two, so you'll be able to review the whole thing. I guess she got started with the 30 days, and they're liking it so far. So that's great. All right, and then looks like we got one more question from Kim. Other than today, what's the second best time to get started with their 30-day free trial? Would you recommend they get started with that in the slow months, like it is for them now, or maybe wait until things pick up later on? I guess they have a small lodging property, run as short term with 11 cabins, and they're looking for groups to book the whole site. Can you work? Okay, there's a lot of questions in here. Can you work on groups of 26 to 30 group pricing as well?
Yeah, yeah, great questions. Like ultimately, Kim, I think it's going to come up to like your operations on when you want to get started. I think starting during a slower time might be beneficial in the sense that you're less overwhelmed with other things going on, so you have more time to devote to it. Um, just be patient and realize that you might not see like a huge increase in bookings just because you're using Price Labs because you're in your slow season, right? Um, let's see, we can you work on groups of 26 to 30? Yeah, yeah. So Price Labs, I think that's one of the things we do well is we've got the capability to work with large portfolios. So 26 to 30 group pricing. Is group pricing a ResNexus term? Uh, do you guys know? Okay. Then the way I'm kind of interpreting it, maybe it's a 26 to 30 size portfolio of listings or cabins. Yeah, you can set up pricing for that, no problem. Joseph, for hotel comparisons, it's using Booking.com. Is it using anything in addition to Booking.com for hotel specific competitor comparisons? For the hotel data tab, that hotel specific stuff, that is just coming from Booking.com. Yeah.
All right. Um, okay, one more follow-up from Kim. Sorry, cabins in this case is renting our whole property of 11 cabins that sleep 26 to 30. So it looks like it's sort of a fractional bookings thing where they're renting out all 11 cabins for like a large group all at once.
Okay.
Um,
Y- Yeah. In that case, Kim, you would have like if you were doing the whole property, right? All 11 cabins, sleep in all of them. You'd have a separate listing, right, for your whole property, and that would come through from ResNexus. And for that one, you would just have your base price make sense, right? Like your pricing for that would probably be, 11 times whatever it is the individual units themselves or thereabouts, right? I'm just kind
right.
of yeah.
Okay, but that makes sense. It would be kind of its own listing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think with that, we have come to the end of our questions, the end of our time. Thanks to everyone who attended. And like I said earlier, this recording will be available online next day or two, so you can go and review that and maybe catch some parts that you missed. And also, just don't forget that you can take advantage of the 30-day free trial, as well as the discount code. And once again, that's ResNexus PL15. That'll give you a 15% discount for what was it again?
For the first 3 months after
For three
your free
months.
trial.
Yep. So definitely get started and see what's possible. Any final thoughts before we sign off for today, David?
Just thank you. Thank you all so much.
All right. Fantastic. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thanks. See you later.